Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Spikeaholic, and if you may or may not know, I love to play Lethal Company. I know a lot about Lethal Company, and I have a lot of hours in it. So I thought today it would be fun to talk about some of the monsters in Lethal Company and where some of them fall short. You know, the monsters that don't really add much to the game, the ones that, instead of being fun or scary, they just end up being annoying or boring. So today, I'm going to be counting down the bottom 5 monsters that, in my opinion, just don't bring enough variety or fun to Lethal Company. I'll break down what makes them fall short and why I think they're at the bottom of Lethal Company's monster list. And of course, before this video begins, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. 97% of my viewers are not subscribed, which is a ridiculous number, and I'm working on trying to get that down. So if you could help, that would mean a lot to me. Enjoy the video. Alright, let's get into the first monster. You know him, you don't love him, it's the Baboon Hawks. Yeah, I can say with confidence that these guys do not spark joy or excitement from many people that play this game. These little scrap stealers are the bane of my existence. Nearly everything about them annoys me in the wrong way. Are you enjoying your time on this moon? Do you think you're doing great because you got a bunch of scrap? Well, guess what? If you left it outside, they'll take it, drag it back to their nest, and you will never be able to get that scrap back again. Walking into these little guys' nest is essentially a death trap, and if you're playing on Adamants, good luck to you, because if these guys spawn on the hill on the way back up to ship, you are not gonna be making it back alive. When I see a horde of baboon hawks, I don't really ever get scared, more so I just sigh in annoyance. One of the biggest reasons why the baboon hawk isn't lower on this list is because some of the mechanics and the way that it's coded is super cool. For example, if you're looking directly at a baboon hawk or holding a weapon, they'll be less likely to attack you because they're more scared of you. But if there's a large number of baboon hawks in a group, they'll be more confident and therefore more likely to attack you. So yeah, that's how I feel about the baboon hawk. I feel like it's more of an annoyance, if anything, but some of the mechanics and its coding are super cool, so it earned the bottom 5 spot on my list. Now next up, at number 4, we have the Hydro... We have the slime. Now, I put the slime on the list for a very different reason than I put the baboon hawks on this list. Honestly, it's just boring. I mean, seriously, how can you expect this monster to be exciting at all when its biggest counters are the spacebar, a railing, and doors? And I'm sure some people might be asking, like, hey, it's a slime. What interesting things could you do? But I think there are a couple of interesting routes that Zeekers could have taken with this one to make it a lot more interesting. For example, I think something could have been done with a mechanic like mitosis, where if the slime has been alive for long enough, it'll split into two and come at you from different directions to try to block you off. But the point of this video isn't to suggest improvements to monsters. This video is for me to give my honest opinion on some of the shortcomings of specific monsters in their current state in the game. And with that, let's move on to number 3 of our bottom 5 list. And taking this spot will be the hoarding bug, or as some people call it, the yippee bug. While adorable, this monster does not add a lot. This little bug lives inside the facility and looks for scrap. When it finds scrap, it takes it back to its own little pile and guards it with its life. While this monster also steals scrap just like the baboon hawks, it is a lot less interesting and a lot less exciting than the baboon hawks. This monster doesn't have the same interesting mechanics as the baboon hawk. Instead, with the loot bug, it's don't get too close to my loot, don't pick up any loot around me, and I won't attack you. That's it. While this bug may create a strong atmosphere on the inside of the facility, its mechanics don't pose a threat to the player, and it's just sort of there. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that these monsters are necessarily poor additions to the game. Quite the contrary. I actually enjoy all of the monsters I've talked about so far in their own respects. They do what they're supposed to do and don't make the game entirely unfair. Now, while the statement may hold true for the monsters that I just talked about, I'm not so sure that it does for the last 2 on this list. And now, taking the bottom 2 spot on this list, we have the Jester. An enemy with no real counters. Absolutely wonderful. Picture this. It's been a long day on Rend. You're deep in the mansion finding a metric ton of scrap to take back to your ship. It feels like a wonderful day. Then you turn around and see a box with legs on top of you. It begins to wind. Slowly but surely, the music gets faster. You try to find the exit but cannot remember the way out. Oh god, the music is getting faster. The jester pops open, then boom, you are dead. There was nothing that you could have done better in that moment other than remember the exact location of the exit in your moment of stress. You cannot hide from this beast. It always knows exactly where the nearest player is and rushes towards them with ridiculous speed. This guy also wasn't built for co-op play, as the player near the entrance could open a jester, leave, and the teammate stuck far inside the facility is guaranteed a premature death. The only thing you can do to survive this monster is leave the facility, which I personally don't think fits with the style of the game. Players should be able to choose if they want to go inside or not based on their perceived danger level, not have it already be decided for them because some jack-in-the-box is there. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of the Jester. I just feel like it isn't fun and doesn't fit with the rest of the game very well. Now, before going on to the last monster on my list, I'd like to give an honorable mention to some monsters that I also don't like too much that didn't make the list. Starting with the Butler. This guy is a freak, plain and simple. The main issue I have with this monster lies in the mechanic where it attacks people when they're alone. This mechanic makes solo play incredibly difficult on some moons, especially Dyne for example, but they aren't too common in most places, and at least their health is reduced in solo, so that's a plus. I also like the vibes they bring to the game and think they add a cool ambience. I would also like to give the Barber an honorable mention. I just personally hate the invisibility mechanic. I think that as it is now, you have to be far too close to the Barber in order to see it. It can lead to some deaths that you weren't even sure were coming because you got lunged at without ever seeing it. Anyway, that concludes the quick honorable mentions. Or dishonorable mentions, I guess. I'm not too sure. Anyway, let's get on to what I believe is the worst monster in Lethal Company. This monster, I believe, has the poorest gameplay design and is actually there to lower the fun value rather than raise it. This monster, of course, is the Forest Keeper. If you know anything about Lethal Company, you know how miserable this monster can be. Picture this. You have a full inventory of amazing scrap. You're about to leave Vow, it's pretty late, when you hear the deep thumping of a giant right after you leave the facility. You begin to cross over the bridge, praying that it doesn't spot you, when suddenly the thumping gets louder and your screen turns that weird green that it does when a giant sees you. Now, you're halfway between the facility and the ship. What do? I'll give you a few seconds for this one. Great! The correct answer is Alt F4 and try again later. Without a stun on hand, this giant is a guaranteed death. Talk about unfair. I mean, the giant is faster than you, can see you at incredible ranges, and it is always in the worst spots possible. I mean, hell, if you're playing with friends, they can't even get your stuff if it gets you because your stuff disappears when you die. This giant is just terrible. And this monster, I believe, is the worst in Lethal Company. But what do you think? Did I miss a monster that you think should be on this list? Is there a monster on my list that you disagree with? Let me know down in the comments below. Anyways, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and have an awesome day. See ya!